The beginning of the year like the the end just like the beginning. But this is not the case with President Paul Biya. His beginning of the year is never the same as the end, never a dull moment. For even when he remains silent, he still speaks in his silence, just as he does in his actions across the year. Each part of the year comes with its own load of diplomatic frenzy and beehive of activity. 2023 fell in this lineage of discourse. Paul Biya carried his baton and discharged his responsibilities as a diplomatic guide of Cameroon, both at home and abroad. He was present wherever the interests of Cameroon catapulted him and performed his constitutional duties of representing the state of Cameroon in all acts of public life. 2023 effectively started for President Paul Biya on January 6, 2023 at the Unity Palace with a grandiose New Year wishes ceremony. It unfolded in two parts. First, at the Ambassador's Saloon with wishes from members of the diplomatic community, and later in the mythical banquet hall from national dignitaries. The diplomatic event saw the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Gabonese High Commissioner Paul Patrick Bifo, praised the leadership of President Biya, especially in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and his wisdom in handling regional issues. In his response, President Paul Biya expressed joy for having to meet the diplomats again face to face after a 2-year break due to COVID-19 restrictions. On that occasion, the head of state reiterated his commitment to the peaceful resolution of conflicts through dialogue and negotiations. He also made an appeal to the international community to seek to address the root causes of conflict in Africa and establish coherent financial mechanisms in order to boost the development of the continent. The second phase at the banquet hall, devoid of speeches, was typically characterized by handshakes from a literally moving album of the Who is Who in Cameroon. In all, 35 delegations of national dignitaries took turns to shake the hand of the President of the Republic, flanked on this occasion by his two closest aides, and to wish him a happy new year. The delegations came from state institutions such as the Senate, the National Assembly, the government, the judiciary, the security apparatuses, national stakeholders such as business persons, trade unionists, religious dignitaries, and heads of political parties, especially those represented in Parliament. The ceremony was the last public outing of a prominent political figure, Ne John Fundi, erstwhile chairman of the Social Democratic Front (SDF), who seemed to have come to say adieu before he died in Yaoundé on June 12, 2023. He would later be honored with an official burial in his native village, Baba One, in the northwest region. It was President Paul Biya's own way of paying tribute in remembrance of the memory of the fallen compatriot. On February 2nd, President Paul Biya granted audience to the Congolese Minister of State, Minister of Mining, Industries and Geology, Pierre Uba, bearer of a sealed message from President Denis Sassou Nguesso. The emissary from Brazzaville later disclosed that he had delivered a message of condolence from his principal to President Paul Biya on the death of the Cameroonian Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development, Gabriel Dodo Ndoke. The visit, according to the Congolese minister, was also used to size up the progress made in the vast mining project between the two countries, that is, the exploitation of the Mbalam Nabeba iron ore project, and to also receive additional guidelines from the president on how to proceed. President Paul Biya also reassured the Congolese minister that the death of his Cameroonian opposite number will not in any way dampen Cameroon's resolve of forging ahead with the innovative project that has clear integrative potential. On February 10th, President Paul Biya kept the faith. He was at it again with his traditional message to the Cameroonian youth, in which he brought to his young compatriots a message of hope and resilience in the face of myriad of challenges. He recalled, among other things, that the 3-year youth plan rolled out in 2016 is intended to foster the requisite entrepreneurial culture and thus is the integration of the youth into the job market. A month later, that is on March 15, 2023, the president received in audience the transitional president and head of state of Chad, General Muhammad Idris Deby Itno. This meeting took place on the eve of the 15th session of the Conference of Heads of State and Government of CEMAC. The tete-a-tete lasted for 40 minutes and canvassed diverse subjects of common interest. The Chadian leader had come to tap from the vast experience of his Cameroonian counterpart, having only not too long ago acceded to the supreme magistracy of that country. The relaxed demeanor of the Chadian leader as he emerged from the audience speaks to the convergence of views he shared with President Biya and his support and resolve to consolidate the long-standing relations of good neighborliness that has been the major trademark of both countries. 2 days later, the 15th session of the Conference of Heads of State and Government rumbles off at the Unity Palace in Yaoundé. All the CEMAC heads of state answered present: Teodoro Obiangema of Equatorial Guinea, Denis Sassou Nguesso of Congo, Ali Bongo Ondimba of Gabon, Muhammad Idris Deby Itno of Chad, and Faustin Archange Touadéra of the Central African Republic. This galaxy was under the chairmanship of President Paul Biya. The summit was a complete success to Cameroon from both a bilateral and multilateral perspective. On the sidelines of the summit, Paul Biya and Teodoro Obiangema put pen to paper, out of which came a bilateral agreement of cooperation to jointly exploit cross-border gas and petroleum fields. The first phase of this agreement will see a joint exploitation of their shared natural resources that straddle their common border. For instance, the gaseous fields of Yoyo in Cameroon and Yolanda in Equatorial Guinea. This agreement was a further testimony to their common quest to plan other pillars of sub-regional integration, which is carving its little niche within CEMAC. The mineral reserves on this swath of land are 80% on the Cameroonian side of the common border. The spin-offs of this project, should it see the light of day, will spin out thousands of job opportunities, make inputs into the gross domestic products of both countries, and significant fiscal revenue. At the end, after 4 years of a fruitful mandate as a primus inter pares or chairman of the Conference of Heads of State, Paul Biya put down his crown, transferring same to President Faustin Archange Touadéra of the Central African Republic. Close to 2 weeks after this summit, the president was ready to receive the new special representative of the UN Chief Scribe and the head of the UN Regional Office for Central Africa, Abdou Barre. The top UN diplomat and alumnus of the International Relations Institute of Cameroon, IRIC, said it was an honor for him to confer with President Biya, to whom he conveyed the special salutations of the UN Secretary General. The head of the UNOCA seized the opportunity to congratulate President Paul Biya on his constant support for the growth of the sub-region. 1 month after he took the command baton as chairman of the Conference of CEMAC Heads of State, the President of the Central African Republic, Professor Faustin Archange Touadéra, returned to Yaoundé on April 29, 2023. This time it was within the context of a 24-hour working visit in which he had a tete-a-tete with President Paul Biya. For 2 hours, the two heads of state conferred on issues of common interest between their two countries. Nothing substantial filtered out of their in-camera meeting, but the context left no doubt that the new CEMAC primus inter pares was in Yaoundé to tap from the wise counsel and clairvoyance of his predecessor at the head of the sub-regional body. This is the kind of support Paul Biya is always willing and able to give. What is more, the Central African Republic and Cameroon are two neighboring countries strewn together by history and sharing a basket full of common challenges in the domains of security, the economy, and humanitarian concerns. For it is a secret to none that Cameroon plays the safe haven for hundreds of refugees from that country. Visits like these, of course, give assurances and serve as a constant reminder that relations are at their best. The audience President Paul Biya accorded on April 19, 2023 to the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic of Chad, Gali Ngute Geta, coming as it did not only have a diplomatic significance, but strategic undertones as well. Coming into this audience, the Republic of Chad had taken a rare and unprecedented diplomatic maneuver to recall its ambassador to Cameroon, a euphemism in diplomatic parlance, which means showing disagreement over an issue of capital importance. The insensitive management of Chadian petrol was the casus belli of the action that advised this audience. After the decision of the SNH Board of Directors to freeze their transaction with Savannah Energy over the management of Chadian oil, an agreement which was not to the taste of the Chadian government, relations between Yaoundé and N'Djamena have recovered their normalcy and both countries can now smile to each other. Coming out of the audience, the Chadian emissary made no mystery about the reason for his visit. He said he transmitted a message of thanks to President Paul Biya from the Chadian leader for the manner in which the Cameroonian president handled the matter in Charles' favor, and also to seek advice from him on how the matter should be handled going forward. He said the minor diplomatic incident was henceforth a thing of the past. After the restrictions occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, May 20, 2023 recovered its law of yore and solemnity as of right, with a full purview of activities that have usually marked the celebration: elaborate civilian march past, military parades, and popular feastings and receptions, especially at Unity Palace. Once again, the presidential couple rose up to the occasion to flung open the giant gates of Unity Palace to welcome a multitude of guests invited to a banquet for the people. It was a perfect symbiosis between the defense forces and the people of Cameroon to safeguard peace, national unity, and concord. Between the 2nd to the 9th of June, ambassadors and high commissioners who had not yet had the opportunity of presenting their letters of credence to the Cameroonian sovereign were finally able to do so. They were diplomats from Equatorial Guinea, Korea, Tunisia, Turkey, Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, Japan, India, the European Union, Nigeria, Egypt, United States, Brazil, the Central African Republic, Spain, France, South Africa, Chad, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, who henceforth became clad with the dignity and honor of ambassadors and high commissioners extraordinary and plenipotentiary.
Excellence Monsieur Thierry Marchand, ambassadeur de France au Cameroun.
In the afternoon of 19 October, the French ambassador Thierry Marchand returned to the Unity Palace for an audience with President Paul Biya. For about 1.5 hours, the president and his guests took stock of the principal areas of interest in cooperation ties between Élysée and Étoile.
Son Excellence Anatoly Bashkin, ambassadeur de Russie.
A couple of days later, it was the turn of the Russian ambassador, Anatoly Bashkin, to bid farewell to the head of state, having completed his tour of duty in Cameroon, during which time President Paul Biya visited Russia for the second Russia-Africa Summit. On November 1, the head of state was again in action. This time he received in audience the visiting Prime Minister of Korea, Han Duck-soo, with whom he discussed a wide range of issues of common concern. The Korean official disclosed that he had extended an invitation to the head of state to attend next year's Korea-Africa Summit in Seoul, and that arrangements were afoot to elaborate a customized program for Cameroon on this occasion. The president would later gratify the Prime Minister with this bronze gift, depicting Cameroon's cultural wealth. Visits like these are rare and far in between, but when they occur, they present an opportunity to deepen relations with a country that 60 years ago was almost at par with Cameroon in terms of development outlook. On the sidelines of a Francophonie conference that was taking place in Yaoundé on November 4, the President of the Republic received two lady diplomats. The first was the French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, Catherine Colonna.
Madame Louise Mouchikiwabo, secrétaire générale de l'Organisation internationale de la francophonie.
Monsieur le Président, comment allez-vous, Président?
Bien, merci et vous-même.
Merci pour ce moment. Moi, je vais très bien. Je suis très gâtée au Cameroun.
As well as the Secretary General of La Francophonie, Rwandan-born Louis Mushikiwabo. Both officials took turns to commend President Biya for Cameroon's organization of the La Francophonie event, while at the same time discussing salient bilateral issues. Both of them did not leave empty-handed. President Biya gifted each one souvenirs of their passage at the Unity Palace.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Merci. Merci infiniment, Monsieur le Président. Vraiment, je suis très... Regardez comme c'est beau.
On 29th November, the curtains dropped on the diplomatic tour of duty of the High Commissioner of India to Cameroon, Anindya Banerjee. As diplomatic tradition demands, he stopped over at the Unity Palace to say adieux and pay his final compliments to the head of state, who was only too happy to have counted India among Cameroon's trusted partners on the international scene.
Ça te montre quelqu'un en train de couper dans l'équipe de pas, symbole du travail.
It's a symbol of work. Somebody who's cutting pound.
Out of the national territory, President Paul Biya echoed Cameroon's and Africa's voice back-to-back in Paris and in St. Petersburg in Russia. From the 22nd to the 23rd of June, the head of state participated at the summit for the new Global Financing Pact in Paris on the invitation of French President Emmanuel Macron, a summit that rallied 120 delegations from countries and international organizations, including 40 heads of state and government, to chart a new course for poorer countries in piecing together a new global financing pact. The president will brave the rainy weather in Paris to join his peers at the Palais Brongniart for a 2-day brainstorming to develop a blueprint for green growth and demonstrating solidarity to break free from the debt trap. Another high point of the stay of the first couple in the French capital, Paris, was their attendance at a dinner offered by the French presidential couple, Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron. In sum, President Paul Biya played a significant role in breaking the glass ceiling for a new awareness among poorer countries, especially those in Africa that have a stake and a voice in international financial transactions. The president's sojourn and diplomatic strides for Africa were very much appreciated by some members of the Cameroonian community in Paris that had been camping most of the time around the George V Hotel where the president stayed, left no stone unturned to demonstrate this openly and unmistakably throughout the president's stay in France. By the 27th of July, Paul and Chantal Biya were back to Europe, this time in Eastern Europe and precisely in St. Petersburg, the Russian port and industrial city, for the second Russia-Africa summit on the extreme invitation of President Vladimir Putin. A visit that turned out to be a resounding success from every benchmark of analysis. It was the first visit of President Paul Biya to Russia, coming at a time when relations between Russia and Western countries are at an all-time low. Several veiled and even overt attempts were made to dissuade many African leaders from making the trip. For President Paul Biya to take the decision to go to Russia under those circumstances proved that true friends are known only in times of difficulties. It was also a practical demonstration of the stance President Paul Biya had taken since September 1986 while on a visit to the then West German parliament, the Bundestag in Hamburg, that Cameroon is no country's preserve or backyard, but was rather open to dealings with any country. The only reasonable determinant being the guarantee of Cameroon's vital strategic interest. There could be no better expression of the practical relevance of this position than that visit to St. Petersburg, and of course President Biya made sure he reaped full diplomatic dividends out of it for Cameroon. Vladimir Putin was absolutely elated to have Paul Biya around, noting as he did that Paul Biya's travels to similar events are rare and his mere presence in St. Petersburg is a mark of relative success of the event. Paul Biya's meeting with Vladimir Putin was undoubtedly the icing on the diplomatic cake. Their body chemistry on that meeting speaks volumes about their rapprochement and convergence of views on the issues that matter to their respective countries, and a general reading of the prevailing international environment. They emerged from their bilateral meeting, reinforcing relations between Yaoundé and Moscow. An event of momentous significance that stood out in the president's activities in this end of year is the audience the head of state granted to Brigadier General Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, the head of the transition and president of the Republic of Gabon, on December 6, 2023. The circumstances of the general's accession to power has fueled speculations about the attitude of Yaoundé towards the authorities in Libreville. Since coming to power 4 months earlier, Oligui Nguema had been to all CEMAC countries except Cameroon, but his visit to Cameroon did not only speak volumes, but was also strategic, Cameroon being by all standards the locomotive of the sub-region. The audience was clearly the interplay of Cameroon's diplomatic pragmatism and portrayal of realpolitik. It also intersects with Cameroon's core foreign policy principles of independence, non-interference, and good neighborliness. For close to 2 hours, the two heads of state were able to underscore the need for the highly fraternal and multi-secular relations between both countries not to suffer, political developments notwithstanding. And so it was a year pregnant with action, awash with political ricochet, and no short supply of diplomatic assertiveness, paving the way for 2024. Years come and go, but certainly are not identical.